Pacers beat the Magic, get back to 500. The bench, the story of the game, maybe the best we've ever seen Jarace Walker play. TJ McConnell, excellent, but everybody filled an important role. So much to discuss on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, so much to discuss from Pacers Magic. Pacers get back to 500. Holy smokes, they did it. I want to throw like fake balloons to drop from my ceiling. They beat a team that was shorthanded with a star out. My gosh, has that been their kryptonite the last few seasons? They did it. They did it this time. Their first quarter was huge. Jarace Walker was excellent. TJ McConnell, equally awesome. Bennedict Mathurin continues his rampage. Basically, everyone who played contributed in a major way, doing something that no one else on the team on this particular night could provide. That's what a team effort looks like. That's why they had 5 players with 17 or more points. That is a balanced winning formula for the Pacers against the Magic. To be clear, I think they should have won by more. I don't think they played like awesome. They won by 7. And from the end of the first quarter on, the Magic were probably the better team. I mean, they were on the scoreboard, quite frankly. They won the last 3 quarters by a combined 5 points. The Pacers' start was fantastic, but the whole totality of the game, the flow, did suggest the Pacers were better. And a key part of that, and the guy we have to start with, Ethan Krieger brought him up yesterday. We're starting with him today. Jarace Walker was tremendous in this game. His best offensive game of his career. I will probably say best game of his career. He said he didn't think he defended very well after the game, which is why I'm hedging there a little. It's his own words, not mine. And I didn't think he defended poorly in this game. He defended pretty well against Luka, just a few days ago. He's had stretches like, I think the game that I always remember with him was in LA when they played the Clippers last year, and he defended Kawhi pretty well and had like a nice, night on the offensive end as well. That's one of the games that stands out to me with him. But this game was the package of Jarace Walker that, the Pacers hope they can get more often. And I don't think they ever expect him to shoot 100% because stat line wise, this was as good as it gets for him. 7 for 7 from the field. All 3 of his threes. Boom. Drilled them. One was really tough and contested. That's really meaningful. Duh. You make all your shots, you're going to have a good night. But he did more than that, right? He kept the ball moving. He didn't have any assists. And I think people will look at that and say, oh, it wasn't passing that much. He was passing that much. 2 steals and a block. So the defensive playmaking was there. Noteworthy for him because of what Ethan and I talked about yesterday. 0 turnovers. Did not turn it over. That's where the passing was better. Didn't throw it all over the gym. Didn't have any rough handle moments. Plus that with the shots. 6 rebounds. Pushing in transition when he got chances. Huge game. Huge game for Jarace Walker. Maybe the best he's ever played. And the Pacers really needed him to be that good in this one because they needed anyone to step up in a 7-point win against a shorthanded team. He was the guy to do it. Corner threes are a big part of his game. He was making them. One of them was really contested, and I bring that up twice now because Rick Carlisle called out after the game, right? And I am guilty of this myself, so I have to put my hand up when he says this. Like, Jarace may end up being an awesome shooter, right? We don't really know yet. He's shot it better in the NBA than I think many predicted. But my big reason why I was less concerned with the shooting than others was, well, I thought he could pass. He passed in college. He was a good passer at the high school level, had that year at point guard, which is over-discussed in this context. But I thought he can move the ball pretty well. Rick's point was like, yeah, he can, but that passing is less effective or less impactful if you can't shoot and you're defended in a way where there's just no one close to you on the perimeter. Like, think the most extreme version of this is Ben Simmons, right? No one guards Ben Simmons out far anymore. So there's no passes just over the defender right in front of him, right? Jarace making the threes and then taking that to the next level, which is getting past the defender and making a pass, or just throwing it over the defender or under or whatever, who's right on him to set up a post up or something. It just opens up so much if you can actually make the shots. And so for him to be that guy that I've thought could be possible with the passing, he does have to have some sort of level of shooting. So able to hit 3 threes, including a contested one, really valuable. Some nice shots in the lane in this game. Floaters were dropping in for Jarace Walker. He looked Really, really good, really comfortable. And this was a game they needed him to be this guy. They don't have Aaron Nesmith, and their starting lineup they've been playing has been effective, but they needed size, right? Nembhard was guarding Franz Wagner in this game. And we'll talk about that later because I have questions about it, but Drew did pretty good in the second half, especially in that matchup. But even, looking at the Magic roster, beyond that, KCP, Da Silva, Franz Wagner, Batadze all start. Jet Howard played in the first half. It was terrible. Never played again. But Jonathan Isaac, Mo Wagner, Gary Harris off the bench. That's a big team. A big team. The Pacers need size to match up. If you recall after the Mavs game, I was talking about, Obi at the 5 worked, but the Mavs were small. I'll be curious how much the Pacers get pressured and tested against a bigger Magic team. And they did. And they needed Jarace to be good to neutralize some of that size skill gap. And he was awesome. If he can be efficient, obviously he's going to play a lot anyway. But to pair it with what I thought was a fine defensive game from him, +8, a team high for the Pacers in his 23 minutes and 14 seconds, the most of any Pacers bench player. He stole some minutes from Nembhard. He stole some minutes from Mathurin and Siakam in this game. Was awesome. Really, really great Jarace Walker game. Probably the best player over expectation in this game, and in a game the Pacers won by 7, but we're up, one possession in the final minute once again, because that's how they play basketball now, was so crucial. He was fantastic. Best Jarace Walker game I've seen with my own eyes, certainly, and hopefully a leaping point for him, right? He wants to play more. He certainly deserved the minutes he's gotten this year, and playing like that was huge for him as an next lottery pick. And to continue the theme of lucky timing, talking about him yesterday, that was his 41st NBA game. An NBA season is 82 games. That was halfway through one full season for him of actual game action, right? Patience matters. The Pacers are trying to win. Blending those realities is tough, but he was really, really, really great. Really great in this game. For those who forgot, since I have now found it, Jarace Walker in LA, that game that I talked about, he almost played 30 minutes. He made all of his shots, but only had 8 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, plus 23 in a 17-point win over the Clippers last year. That is his competitor for best game, but he was that good tonight. And I thought it was cool to see the way his teammates reacted to it as well. Myles Turner does the in-arena interview with Pat Boylan on the court. First thing he's talking about is how well Jarace Walker just played. And Jarace Walker's doing the walk-off interview with Jeremiah Johnson for the FanDuel Sports Network Indiana broadcast. And Pascal Siakam comes up, gives him a big hug. And TJ McConnell comes up and gives him praise as well, right? They all know that meant something to him. And it's, we heard Myles Turner on Jeff Teague's podcast this offseason. I think that's when it was. I could be wrong. Talk about how a lot of the team has routinely had to say to him, like, I know it's hard, but be patient. Like, your time will come. And this was a game where all those vets who've been saying those things to him, we saw those videos of him training with Siakam down in Orlando this summer. He played well on a night that they all needed him to, right? Those players were all good, but Jarace really carried that team in many ways today. Awesome game from him. His best, for my money, I would put down that was his best game ever. There are arguments for other ones, but he was fantastic and the Pacers needed it. Not to be outdone, the Pacers front office can pat themselves in the back for this game, because the other player who was absolutely critical was the other lottery pick, playing a lot recently and deserving of all the time he's getting, Bennedict Mathurin. Woo! More physical NBA. Where is it? Is it in the room with me right now? 14 free throw attempts. Career high. That's an absurd number. No one could really get into the teeth of this Magic defense. They went zone. We'll talk about that later. It was really junking up what the Pacers were doing. At times, that broke up the rhythm of the game. Ben Mathurin said, no problem. I'm getting the line whenever I want. They have big men, sure, but they're slow. They can't rotate to me very quickly. Goga Batadze, he couldn't get – I like Goga more than just about anybody. He couldn't stop Ben Mathurin through him. He had 5 fouls. Franz Wagner, 2 late on the rotations, 4 fouls. Tristan Da Silva, you're a rookie. Good luck with Mathurin, 3 fouls. Jalen Suggs guarding Mathurin sometimes, 3 fouls. Anthony Black, you're a second-year player. Good luck, 4 fouls. Ben Mathurin got to the rim a lot and drew fouls. That was the key thing he did, because he was 3 for 7. That was the second worst shooting percentage on the Pacers. That's not even that bad. 3 for 7 is whatever. 14 free throw attempts, and he made 13 of them. That is 20 points on 7 shots. That's a remarkable free throw night. And that just gives you such a huge floor and huge advantage from an efficiency perspective. He could not be stopped. He got by whoever he wanted. He got to the line. He made the free throws. He took 14 free throws in this game. The Pacers took 26. Over half. He made 13. The Magic as a team made 20. Incredibly good Ben Mathurin game in that way. And yet, Maybe not even the most impactful thing he did. I would say the free throws were, because the Pacers had significant stretches of this game where their offense was so bogged down by the Magic, their size, their zone, their whatever. But got to get stops. Pacers probably didn't defend the way they wanted in this game. The raw number's fine, 111, but the Magic's available talent probably suggests it should be less than that. I was joking with people on Media Row before the game that like 105 is probably enough for the Pacers to win. Ben Mathurin had 11 rebounds. He continues to be very good in that way. I've brought that up a lot during his career and have kind of gotten away from talking about it recently just because I'm not doing my job well enough. 11 boards. He's an excellent rebounder for a guard, and for a Pacers team that needs that, he was good in that way. 20 points and 11 rebound double-double. They win his minutes by 1. His defense was solid as well. Continuing the great stretches for Ben Mathurin. You didn't feel him as much early in this game, but man, was he important the last 3 quarters. A theme for him, closing these games really well. And so there it was, the lottery pick special for the Pacers. For a while, in the middle of the fourth, I was looking down. I thought, is Rick going to close with both Jarace Walker and Ben Mathurin? He put Pascal Siakam in, which made sense, but I thought it might be happening. You know, that they would have earned it on merit. They were playing that well. So the 2 lottery picks, the 2 top 10 picks for the Pacers, their only 2 top 10 picks since the 80s, carried the Pacers to a win in a game that shouldn't have been as difficult as it was, but those 2 made it possible for the Pacers to get it done, get across the finish line. Massive performances from them. And not alone in the big game department. TJ McConnell, excellent. Tyrese Haliburton keeps hitting massive shots despite being inefficient this season. So many guys stepped up. So much more to get to on today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about the good people over at SKIMS. What are your complaints about underwear? Mine, a lot of times, very uncomfortable, or they don't fit for very long. It's very tough to shop for them, for example. Can't stand that. Well, SKIMS can be helpful in fixing all of that. I've tried every boxer brief in the game, but nothing ever fits right. I think I finally found the winner in SKIMS. They have their cotton 5-inch boxer brief, and it puts other brands to shame. They hit right at the thigh, and they stay there, and that's the key. They don't move around. They don't bag out. They don't give you that 5 p.m. wedgie. If you're a boxer brief guy like me, this is the one for you. Trust me, when it comes to underwear, I've now tried them all, and SKIMS is the best way to do it. So shop SKIMS men's at skims, SKIMS.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family with the holidays coming up, well, SKIMS just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Magic with Philip Rossman-Reich. He was talking about the Magic, who are on a losing streak without Paolo Banchero, needing to capture their joy recently. They looked really rough offensively on their road trip and losing streak since losing their star. They had some joy in this game. Their offense had some moments of brilliance. Franz Wagner took advantage of his matchup advantage in size, but not enough joy, and their first quarter really sunk them. That was what won this game for the Pacers, at least in terms of a stretch of time, is the first quarter. 38 points for the Pacers. 38-26. The rest of the game, Orlando Magic +8 in the second quarter, Magic +2 in the third quarter. That's +10 in total. Pacers +5 in the fourth. So the Magic won those last 3 quarters by 5. Pacers won the first quarter by 12 to get it done. They were awesome in the first quarter, tearing apart a Magic team that, yes, was missing their star, but is still awesome on defense without him. Top 3 in defense, I believe, even since Banchero went down. That was really impressive work from the Pacers in that first quarter. 14 for 21 from the field, 7 free throws, kept the turnovers down, were awesome on the glass, 10 defensive rebounds in that frame. And Siakam set the tone. I thought him and Mathurin were the 2 guys early that were really important. Siakam's best quarter of the game by far was the first quarter that needed him to be great there, and he was, and the bench continued to play well. But, you know, if you, like, for the New Orleans game, the key stretch that lost the Pacers that game was the middle of the second quarter, early third. And that stretch was bad for the Pacers in this game too, but they were able to overcome it because their first quarter was so good. Their good start continued for longer in this game that has in some recent games. That turned out to be extremely important. I want to talk about and highlight a couple other things from this game that I think really mattered or are worth keeping an eye on going forward. One is I want to start with Tyrese Haliburton. One, I asked him about his back after the game. there was a report that he's been dealing with the back thing, and he sits on the pad on the bench, and he's got that wrap on his back. Like, I don't think it's like perfect, but I asked him about his back after the game. He said it's fine, right? So if it's something that he thought was bugging him, he would tell us, or it'd be on the injury report. Maybe it perhaps is a factor, though, that is impacting his play. Either way, the actual story for Tyrese Haliburton in this game, who came alive late, 17 points, 4 assists. So statistically not a night you'd look back on and go, wow, Tyrese Haliburton was so great. 10 of those 17 points in the fourth quarter when he was +8. They won the game by 7, right? He was huge in crunch time of this game. And one of his assists and a steal came in that fourth period. Massive 3 in the final minute to really seal the game. It happens way too often, and I won't talk about it a ton now. I will in the next segment, but Pacers up plenty to get it done. Up 11 when this game had 5 minutes and 4 seconds to go. Up 9 at the 5-minute mark. Up 10 and 11 inside the final 5 minutes. I thought this game could be the first time the Pacers won without crunch time this year, and then the Magic go on a run. It was 113-102 with 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go. It was 113-111 with 43 seconds to go. 9-0 run in about 4 minutes for the Magic. Looked like the Pacers were in dire situation again, maybe going to put the game away. And then Tyrese Haliburton, 26-foot-3 with 34 seconds to go. That put the Pacers up 5. That put the game away. The Magic couldn't do enough to catch back up. Mathurin put the game away at the foul line. Huge shot. And so here's something fascinating about Haliburton. No one is saying, and no one should say, that he's been efficient this season or that he's played like super excellent or up to the standard that he set for himself by being so good the last 2 seasons, right? But even in a season where right now, okay, the Magic game is in his stats on NBA.com. He's currently averaging 16 points and 7.5 assists per game. That's pretty good, but not, what you think of with him. He's currently shooting 39.8% from the field and 27% from deep. And yet, dagger shot against the Pistons that they absolutely needed. Dagger shot against the Magic that they absolutely needed. Dagger shot against the Mavs that they absolutely needed when their lead fell all the way down to 5 late in that game. Huge shot late in regulation against the Celtics that no one will remember because Jason Tatum instantly hit a 3 that actually tied the game. Would have been a dagger against the Celtics. That's 4 games he's hit a critical clutch shot, and that's just off the top of my head. No one hit anything important against the Knicks. I think he hit a shot in the final minute of Pacers Sixers. I can't remember exactly how that one went down late. But like all these games, he has, despite not having a particularly efficient season, in fact, a bad efficient season, has been clutch all the time. That is super important, right? The trust in him matters. He's good in those moments. He trusts himself. The team trusts him. And he deserves that confidence because even in a year he's not playing at the level that many expect him to, he can step up in those moments. So he was fine anyway. 17-4 is okay. They won his minutes by 6. He only had 1 turnover. But even on a night where he's not, he's following up his best performance of the season. Even on a night where he doesn't look incredible, he still has a magical moment that puts the game away. Game shouldn't needed to be in that spot. That's a discussion for the third segment coming up. Let's talk about some other guys who had major impacts. How on earth, I'm sorry to have gotten this far, have I not talked about TJ McConnell yet? I led with Jarace Walker because he went 7 for 7. TJ McConnell also went 7 for 7. He had his first 3-pointer of the season on his way to 15 points and 5 assists. The 4 turnovers make him not a game that TJ McConnell would like to remember in that department, but 15-5, you can smile and say, great. That Pacers bench was awesome. McConnell, a huge part of it when he can have a night like that where he gets into the lane. They really needed his juice, right? Even against the zone the Magic were running that was so effective. A lot of times McConnell, because of either screens at the top or whatever, could actually get into the lane and make the zone get a little out of shape in a way that was really important. Obviously, he can just literally get by any defender at any time in man coverage. So that was really important in this game. I thought his speed and his zip was at, at the level it needed to be against a Magic team that's given the Pacers trouble. So he was great. Hitting that 3 was huge. Again, every play was huge in this game. Him and Jarace Walker combined 14 for 14, 32.6 rebounds, 5 assists. That's pretty dang good. The bench in general deserves a round of applause. You didn't really feel Obi Toppin as much in this game as the backup 5. I think the size of the Magic made it much harder for him to look like he can in that role, right? Which I maybe worried is the wrong word, but wondered if it could be a concern for the Pacers. Like, this is the kind of game where they'd want to have a traditional 5 available. He was still 2 for 3 with an assist. I mean, You did not feel him nearly as much as any other game this season. The most invisible he was, but they won his minutes by 5. He still provides spacing. And then Ben Shepherd defended his tail off and hit 2 threes. He was 2 for 3 from deep with 6 points. They also won his minutes. Every Pacer with a positive plus minus in this game. I bring up Toppin and Shepherd, who are both fine, to say the bench was 18 for 20. That's insane. Pacers bench looking like last year's bench with the speed, with their game-changing runs, right? Never keeping the Pacers out of it, extending their lead, if anything. Very important that they did it in this game. The Pacers have now tweeted this. Mark Boyle had it. Pat Boylan had it. I haven't looked it up myself, but I totally believe it to be true. 18 for 20 is the best shooting percentage ever by a reserve unit, taking 20 shots in a game. Humongous night from the Pacers bench, and it was led by Walker and McConnell. McConnell was fantastic, setting up everybody and scoring himself, but I mean, record-setting nights, that will do it. So huge games from them. I don't want to duck these guys, so let's get them in now. Pascal Siakam's first quarter was huge. Over half his points came in that stretch. 17, 4, and 3 on 6 for 13 shooting. The metronome continues. Every night he's giving you good production in many areas and defending well. He's been an all-star this year. And still, to me, the best player on the Pacers for the season. Myles Turner, 10 boards, 17 points, 3 turnovers he'd like to have back. Didn't make his threes this time. Goga got him a few times in the first half on the glass, but Turner recovered in that way. He mentioned talking with Lloyd Pierce about rebounding in Dallas, or maybe Rick Carlisle said that. And he's had 2 straight double-doubles with rebounding. He's got to keep that up, but that's a good start. Rebounding important in this game. Pacers only losing that battle by 2 on a night where they shot 2% better from the field and did not miss nearly as many free throws. And Andrew Nembhard, I promised I'd get to him because I think he played a very important role in this game that gets overlooked because his stat line is pretty pedestrian. 2 for 8 in this game with 5 points, but 5 assists and only 1 turnover. That's a nice offensive impact. The thing he did that was the most important to me was guarding Franz Wagner. Andrew Nembhard was the guy that put on Franz Wagner. Now, I was actually really intrigued by this because it feels like a waste to put Nembhard on, a Jalen Suggs or KCP or Tristan Da Silva. Not real massive offensive threats, but he's got a massive size disadvantage against Franz Wagner. And then it's harder to figure out where to put Pascal. He's got a size advantage and a defense advantage against anybody. He had said some time on Da Silva in this game. So they end up choosing to go with Nembhard on Wagner. I think I would have tried Siakam myself, but I guess I get why the Pacers did what they did, and it really paid off in the second half. Wagner was great early in this game. He had 21 points at halftime. Thought he was going to run away with this game from an efficiency perspective and looked like a star. Second half, 3 for 10 was Franz Wagner, 2 turnovers to 2 assists. The Magic losing his minutes in that half by 3 points, and they lost the entire half by 3 points. Major impact from Nembhard in the defensive department on the Magic's best player and really only consistent offensive threat. They have other players who can do stuff, but not Lalo Franz can. That was really important for the Pacers that he upped his defensive level. Had a huge stop in the fourth quarter, just walling him up for a whole possession. So not a good stat line, good defensive game from Nembhard. Still some stuff I want to talk about that would fall into the concern category. This game being a 7-point game, chief among them. Why was this game so close? What do the Pacers need to get through if they want to play better in the future? Last segment coming up here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Before we talk about that stuff, we got to talk about the good folks over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel because they are America's #1 sportsbook right now over on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, you can bet $5. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. How about that? $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and the NBA, all in one place. When you get that hunch, it's the middle of a game. You know what's coming. You feel it. You can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can be as informed as possible and up to the minute as possible so you can act on your hunches at the right time. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On Warriors. They were awesome in Boston. Buddy Hield hit the dagger shot. That game was awesome. Locked On Warriors, your second listen. Buddy Hield has been so good to this point in the season. He has found a great home in Golden State. Some not awesome stuff happened in this game. Chief among them that the Orlando Magic scored 111 points with the roster that they had. No Wendell Carter, no Paolo Banchero, among other things. Look, the Pacers got it done. They don't have to apologize for that. 111 is not like an atrocious number. The Magic on Monday scored 86 points against OKC. The Sunday, the day right before that, they scored 85 points against the Dallas Mavericks. They scored 109 against the Cavs last Friday. And in the game when Carroll got hurt, they scored 99 in Chicago against the Bulls. So first of all, tough road trip. This is the end of it for them. But they got to 111. That is their highest point total game since, guess what? The last time they played the Pacers earlier this season in Orlando, that win for the Magic. So not a good defensive game for the Pacers in that way. The Magic size has always given them fits really on both ends, right? Anthony Black continues to look good against them. Mo Wagner just kind of pummels and stumbles his way into some points. KCP and Jalen Suggs both had pretty effective games, and as did Goga Batadze. I don't know that there's a single thing that I can point to and say that was what the Pacers did bad on defense tonight. There were a couple drives that were way too easy for the Magic, but their defense just has to be a little more stout, a little more toughness, a little more, for lack of a better term, to use the Locked On Pacers terminology book, a little more oomph would go a long way for the Pacers on defense. They don't have to apologize. They won. It was fine enough, but they've got to find a way to find just a little bit more of a gear on the defensive end, especially on a night like this. I thought in the first quarter they had it. They gave up 26. They were scoring themselves, which kept the Magic out of transition, which is really the only way the Magic could have kept up in this game, was by getting enough stops to hit the open floor. This game was even in fast break points, right? But once that kind of flipped, the Magic zone really flipped things on its head. But they had to be better on defense because they had some, and again, another thing that's a part of this is the Pacers, once again, really early, they clean this up to their credit. But I mean, some of the offensive rebounds other teams get against the Pacers are just like inexplicable rebounds. It's like they're right there. They are right there. And I get that everybody's going to say Myles Turner, and a lot of it's him, to be clear. And he picked his rebounding up throughout the game. But it is other guys too, where it's just like the ball's right there, just grab it, and they don't. The Magic zone was the biggest story of this game and would have been my lead topic had the Pacers lost. It changed everything, right? Andrew Nembhard always talks about how it's important for teams to run their stuff in zones, right? You can use zone to change games if you run it infrequently and a team doesn't expect it. But if you get to it too much, a team starts getting into their stuff. It doesn't work as well. I do think the Pacers ran their zone offense fine. I thought in the second quarter, they really got bogged down by the Magic zone, like really bad. They had a bunch of turnovers. They had a bunch of shots get blocked. They just couldn't find the right spaces. They got a few plays that generated good looks. They beamed an open corner three and a layup. But the zone kind of got to them in that stretch. They got better against it as the game progressed. In the second half, it was mostly fine. But that Magic zone really threw them off. It just took them a little too long to adjust to it and really get to their stuff. They were, Rick Carlisle described it as them just kind of hot potatoing it around the perimeter, right? Not really moving in towards the basket or driving or creating any sort of threat at all. And they did figure it out as the game went along. They had some key halftime adjustments, obviously. But that really took away their mojo, right? Those stops let the Magic get running, and the Pacers couldn't get enough stops, which they need to get way more stops against a group like this. So it was really reminiscent of that Pelican stretch where the Pacers just fell apart really on both ends, but the Magic didn't have and don't have as many stars to be as punishing, right? They still did a good job chipping into the lead and looking like the better team for those stretches where their zone was dominating and they had just enough coming from Franz. But, Zion and BI were on another level for the Pelicans in that game. Nothing the Magic could do about that. And the Pacers did, of course, come out in the third quarter, looked pretty good, and got back up by double digits. Almost the Pacers' most comfortable win, but it can never be that easy. Once again, clutch time woes. Just so peculiar how this happens. They get just enough late, right? They have a lot, but to be up 10 inside the final 5 minutes, I put in my notes, I said, is this going to be the game where they don't have crunch time, right? They've been winning in the fourth quarter in every game except for the Knicks game they've played this season. But they've been in crunch time in every game, right? Within 5 in the final 5 minutes at some point outside of that New York game. They've all been at that point. When they were up 10 with about 5 minutes to go, I thought they had it. Up 11 with 4.5 minutes to go, I thought they would have it. Siakam miss in the lane. Turner miss in the lane. Haliburton miss at the rim. Mathurin missing a 2-point jumper. Haliburton missing a 3-point jumper. Nembhard missing a shot in the lane and then a 3. That all happened. I will say today, they've been kind of tripping all over themselves in a lot of these moments. They had no turnovers this time, right? It was just taking them a little while to get into their offense, and they were missing. but at the same time weren't getting enough stops. And the Magic were, and they were able to get out and run. It just kept snowballing and snowballing. They don't play as fast, which I get why. The clock is now your teammate. You want to use it to your advantage. But just like a tiny bit more pace, I think would go a long way for them. And if they make 2 of those 6 shots I just described, I look stupid, but they just have to close someone out. So the zone, the closing a team out, those were the Pacers got to be better there. And their own defense, of course, will be a topic all season long. But it was enough to win. Back to 500 are the Pacers. I should have said this earlier. It should have been a funny lead. Here's what the Eastern Conference has been this year. They're just all beating each other. The Pacers are third in the East. They're it's unbelievable. Cavs, Celtics, and then the Pacers at 500, them and the Nets. Unbelievable. But they're surviving their early season tough schedule. Going on the road to play Charlotte Friday. We'll be talking about that. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about the small ball Pacers tomorrow, what that's looked like, what its changes have been, and one more topic that I come up with as we go. Or if someone suggests something good, perhaps I'll go with that. Then we'll talk Pacers Hornets Friday night. So much good stuff coming here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers to find some clips and episode topics as it comes out. Thank you all a ton for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you very soon.